how are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm so excited I snagged one of these.
Yes, awesome. Good. What would be most helpful?
So, I'm just starting out in private practice.
Mhm.
So, I recently made the transition from a teletherapy agency working tons of hours, 40 clients a week,
Oh,
had an effect on, my physical health, my
of
mental health,
course.
all of that. So I'm still working for them as a 1099 therapist,
Mhm.
and using 2 days out of my work week to focus on marketing and eventually getting and seeing clients on those two
Mhm.
days. So I have a lot of the things done on the checklist.
Mhm.
And right now I'm really just focused on marketing. So I think there's a couple things I want to touch on. One is the marketing piece, and then two is the imposter syndrome, a
Oh,
little,
yeah.
which is absolutely coming up in, a business that is a business, and it's not just therapy um
Hmm.
that I'm focused on. So that's bringing up a lot of stuff for me. um
Yeah.
so with the marketing, I think I just got my website up about maybe a month ago or so.
Mhm.
I worked with Abundance and Dan on the website,
Dan's amazing.
which
Yay.
was great. Yeah. So it's been up for about a month.
Mhm.
So that's one of my marketing strategies. I'm working a lot on networking, have about like 10 coffee meetings the next couple weeks with
Mhm.
people, mostly other therapists, some other psychiatrists, and then I want to kind of get the word out around my neighborhood. Um, that's another one. And then like Psychology Today, Therapy Den, all of that
Mhm.
stuff. And those are the three that I'm really focused on right now.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm not having any success yet. I haven't
Mhm.
gotten any inquiries, which it's still new. It's only been like a month, so I
Yeah.
want to put that into perspective. Um, but I don't know. It's
Yeah.
bringing up some stuff.
Yeah. And I think to put some things in perspective, when I started my first full-time practice, I didn't get a single call until 2.5 months in.
Okay.
And I networked with 90 people in 90 days.
Gosh.
So I was like busting my butt. Now, I learned a lot along the way, which is what I teach y'all in the party, right? Because I don't want it to take that long for you. But it also, like when it rained, it poured. Like they all tumbled in there
Yeah.
around that time. And I think by 4 months in, I was full. So I think taking some deep breaths and reminding your imposter syndrome that yes, it's been a month and people haven't had an opportunity to find your stuff yet. Usually people who we network with, they don't send an immediate referral. They take a few points of contact before they like really have us in their head as the go-to for our niche.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
hmm
And how are you feeling about your niche? Do you feel like that's clear and honed?
Let me run it by you and see what you think.
Yeah.
I am really focusing on specific type of anxiety and a specific type of OCD. So
Mhm.
people pleasers, internalizers, real like ruminators.
Yeah.
And with the OCD, I'm focusing a lot on that purely obsessional OCD. So not the physical compulsions, but the mental compulsions. And to give you a little bit of context, it's like my niche is me.
Oh yeah,
My
it
niche
almost
is
always is.
it's yeah. So of course there's stuff there too that comes,
Hmm.
like what makes me qualified to do the work when I'm still struggling with anxiety and OCD on my own, and
Hmm.
how am I qualified to charge what I charge and not take insurance, and
Hmm.
what is my worth, and it's that stuff is coming up, I think.
Yeah. So like one thing that you may try doing is like imagining like somebody in your life who was really like talked down to you that you realized later was just kind of a douchebag. Like maybe somebody in middle school or high school or so imagine that person being like, who are you to charge this? Like, why would you think you can work with this? And what would you say to them?
that I have, personal experience and professional experience, and
Mhm.
it makes me more qualified.
Yeah. Yeah. Is there a question mark about that for you when you're telling a douchebag?
I think a little bit. I think
Mhm.
something I really struggle with in my sessions is, and this is my own stuff, and I have like my therapist for this stuff
Right,
too.
right.
Um, I have a social work background, so, and when I was going to school, it was very, very focused on, social justice and all of that stuff, which is, of course, important in therapy,
Mhm.
but it wasn't as focused on, therapy modalities and treatment and mental health issues. And I think that sometimes that is where I maybe lack a little bit in terms of my sessions. I really struggle, I think, to come across as an expert because I don't believe in myself that way.
Mm.
Um, and I tend to get a little bit tripped up in sessions when I'm more assertive, when I'm leading a little bit more. And I know, like, with this exposure, that would
Mhm.
be helpful for me in the future to really try out different things and take
Yeah.
risks and take different trainings. But I'm nervous sometimes in sessions.
Mhm.
Um, and sometimes the information that I'm reading outside of therapy on my own and trying to get that skill set built up, I go blank.
Mhm.
So I think that, like, I have a really, really, I think I'm really good at rapport building. I think I'm great at listening. I think I'm great at validating and all of those things. But when it comes to skill building and really being more assertive and not letting the client lead as much as maybe would be more helpful for me, that's, I think,
Mhm.
something that I really, really struggle with.
Yeah, yeah. And so it's amazing for us to be able to see the areas that we can grow clinically. It sounds like you're doing some reading and things like that outside. Do you have a clinical consultant or clinical supervisor that you work with?
I don't.
That might help bolster confidence.
Yeah.
Like, and I just think it's great for all of us to have somebody to be able to bounce cases off of, even like somebody like me who's been doing it 20 years, you know?
Mhm.
Like there are always going to be blind spots that I have. And I think, well, not I think, I know that those of us who have clinical support, whether it's like weekly or kind of on demand, like, hey,
Yeah.
can you hop on a call with a peer? We're going to be better than we would have been otherwise, right? And so when your imposter syndrome shows up, that's an easier way to kind of bash it down. It's like, well, I'm getting support and I can run it by so and so.
Mm.
So there's that. There's also looking at your clients' results. Like maybe you feel nervous in session. I'm guessing it's not very apparent because you wouldn't have people coming back if it was that apparent.
Right. Hmm.
And if your clients are getting results through therapy, not overnight, but
Yeah.
like over time, there is improvement, then that's also a good thing to kind of hang your hat on. It's
Yeah.
just looking for that evidence.
Yes. Yes. And I have that, and that's great. And I think that's sort of another fear that's coming up in private practice. Of course, I think that the quality of a private pay therapist, the quality of therapy is different than, if I'm working, if we're therapists are totally overworked and working at
Mhm.
a teletherapy agency. So I think that I'm nervous that that's part of the reason why maybe the referrals aren't coming in as much, or um, that the retention isn't going to be as high. There's, of course, more pressure when you're
Mhm.
working for yourself, and that's how you make a living. Um, so that's something.
Yeah, I would challenge that, like, you as a therapist with 40 clients every week is going to be less effective than
Absolutely.
you as a therapist with fewer than 20, every week. And that
Mhm.
retention will be higher as a result. So if
Yeah.
you're able to maintain retention in a caseload of 40 per week,
Yeah.
I'm not concerned about you clinically retaining clients when you actually can like breathe and rest and take care of yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's a really, really good point. Mm.
So there's, I think too, because you're your ideal client, that rumination is going to get in there and it's going to like try to hijack your brain even more so than somebody who's, niche is something else, like maybe substance abuse, but they're not engaging in the behaviors.
Yeah.
But it's also them at a younger age or something.
Yeah.
So I want to acknowledge that it is potentially a harder row to hoe for you. Is that
Yeah.
the right thing? Row to hoe? Did I make that up? I don't know. It's a farming analogy, I think. We'll go with it. But it's gonna be slightly harder for you because all of us have imposter syndrome when we're starting, and all of us have all our shit brought up for us when we're doing all these new things. But yours happens to like, there's a feedback loop for yours that can make it difficult. Now that doesn't mean it's impacting you clinically necessarily, unless you feel it impacting you clinically and you're seeing that in results with your clients.
Mhm. Mhm.
But of course you're going to question that and you're going to be very concerned because
Yeah.
that's how you're wired. Um,
Mhm.
so I think finding the evidence and really rooting yourself in the fact that like, holy cow, you've got 40 client or you've had 40 clients a week and people stayed.
Yeah.
Maybe not every single one because that's just numbers,
Yeah.
but people stayed and people got results. God, what can you do with 20 clients a week?
Yeah.
How amazing will that be for everyone involved?
Course. And specifically clients that I actually enjoy working with, which
Yeah.
there's few and far between
Mhm.
now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. Okay.
So that I think that pressure of like, I have to be so good if I'm private pay. A lot of us have that. It doesn't serve any of us, and it's actually not true. Like,
Mm.
I really think you could pluck anybody out of any agency that does solid clinical work and put any price tag on their sessions. And if they're
Yeah.
doing like, and I'm saying solid work, like it doesn't have to be the most amazing work in town, just solid work where people do get better. And if
Mhm.
that's all we have to aim for, it's great to be excellent.
Yeah.
Like it would be lovely to be the best therapist in your city,
Yeah.
but you also don't need to be the best therapist in your city to have a premium fee.
Of course. I like that. I like that. My mind, always goes to the extreme. It's like it's all or nothing.
Right,
It's
right.
Mhm.
Which helps you identify with your ideal client so well.
Yeah. Yeah. In terms of the niche, does it sound specific enough for you?
Yeah,
Okay, great.
absolutely. It's beautifully
Amazing.
specific. And I think as long as you're hitting that daily lived experience and all your marketing material, you're good to go.
Yeah. Another thing I really eventually do want to focus on is grief and loss,
Mhm,
and creating, exploring the niche and coming up with what it was really, really difficult for me. And I think I put so much pressure on,
mhm,
these are going to be all of my ideal clients. And it was a lot of back and forth. It was really, really tough to come up with a niche and write the website copy. That was another thing that was really, really
mhm.
challenging for me. But yeah, I think I settled on, the OCD and the anxiety. And then of course, marketing to other places that might have people struggling with grief and loss that I can also supplement.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because they'll find you anyway. We all have grief and loss,
Yeah,
right? Even letting go of OCD can create grief and loss. So yeah.
yeah, that's true. I didn't think of that.
And I think also leaning into the fact that most therapists don't know the most effective ways to help people with like the obsessive side of OCD.
Yeah.
Um, and that there's like, that's something that most of us don't.
Mm-hmm.
And don't be afraid to kind of own that.
Yeah. Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Okay. For the grief and loss, and I guess for all of the other niche that I'm really, really focusing on
Mhm.
in terms of marketing strategies. So I live right outside New York City.
Mhm.
So I'm not super concerned about um people not having the ability to pay private
Right.
pay prices. And the population is huge, of course, where I'm at.
Mhm.
But in terms of different organizations, different, community agencies to go to, I want to focus a little bit on, I guess, like fitness studios and coffee shops I want to go to. In terms of the grief and loss, where would you recommend making connections? Doctor's offices, like hospitals, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about like coffee shops and things like that for your OCD niche.
Yeah.
And like I want to address that because I don't know that people are looking for help at the coffee shop. They might notice it, but
Yeah.
they're not looking for it, but they are looking for help with their doctor who's feeling kind of exasperated with them because like, why don't you just let this go? You're fine.
Yeah.
So I do think like primary care providers can be really great for both populations
Okay.
because they're both like so intimately involved with their patients and also absolutely can't support them in 15 minutes
Sure.
with all that they need when they're going through grief and loss or when they have obsessional OCD.
Yes.
So
Okay.
I would talk to like doctor's offices, I would talk to other therapists for both. Like a lot of us can work with grief, but choose not to. Like I always refer out grief unless it's somebody that's already on my caseload and something's happened. Because there's a heaviness for it for me as a clinician that I don't want to carry all day. And that's all my own shit about being afraid of dying and stuff. So it's not the niche itself, it's just me with the niche. So um yeah, so I would go there with grief and loss. Like there are already a lot of supports in place.
Mhm.
Um, so like I wouldn't say go to hospice because they have their own support through hospice. Um, I guess what is the grief and loss that your ideal client is going through? Like what's happened?
I think it's sudden grief.
Mhm.
Um, that's something, again, I've struggled with
Mhm.
in my own personal life. So I see it as younger adults who've lost their parents
Mhm.
suddenly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I also, sorry to interrupt if
No,
there's a
you're good.
thought forming there,
Uh-huh.
but I also want to be mindful that there's not transference going on for me,
Mhm.
um, because I am I think ideal client. That sounds super selfish in a way,
Nah,
um,
it's all of us.
and like
Almost all of us.
egocentric, but I want to be careful that,
Mhm.
I'm working on my own stuff in my own therapy, and I don't bring that stuff to my professional world when I'm working with therapists as well.
Mhm.
Um, I think, like, great that I have personal experience, and that doesn't mean that I'm sharing that with my clients.
Right.
But I think I want to be aware of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's holding me back.
Hmm. And I mean, I think it's wise for all of us when our niches are ourselves to like, I think creating kind of benchmarks in your minds or like of like this is how I know it's too close for right now. And being really clear, like I still 10 years later can't work with people with PPD. Like
Mm,
even if I were trained, like it's just too tender for me still.
yeah.
And I know that because whenever I talk to any friends about it, I get all like tight chested and tearful. And I'm like, well, certainly can't do this with a client.
Yeah.
So I think there's like finding out what your own benchmarks are through therapy, probably. Um, and also knowing when it's like having a contingency plan of like if you need to pull out of the therapy for any reason, like already having that kind of documented how you would do that so that you're not dealing with transference plus having to create a way to make this okay to get somebody out or
Yes,
suffering through it yourself, which isn't good for either of you.
of course.
So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Okay.
And I think like having been there yourself, like where did you go? How did you like what community services were your supports during that time that might have led you to a therapist you're seeing if you weren't already seeing one or like that kind of thing?
Yeah, that's a really, really good point, and I already have an idea of that. Okay.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Um, the online listings, Psychology Today, Therapy Den, I'm on those. Um, I've thought about other ways of networking or marketing. I know you
Mhm.
recommend not more than 5
Mhm.
strategies. Um, I think I've ruled out blogging.
Okay.
The the website copy was really, really challenging for me. So I think I
Mhm.
decided I don't like writing. And social media, I'm not sure is really up my alley.
Mhm.
One question I actually had was difference between networking and the warm letters.
Mhm. So the warm letters are people that you already know, maybe through networking or grad school or life,
Okay.
and you just send them these letters that are kind of like, hey, so it's not an in-person or virtual connection where you're actually talking to one another. It's just a letter sent.
Got it. Got it. Okay. Okay. I think that's probably another one that I might focus on.
Mhm.
Um, and hopefully within the next few months I get a few people because ultimately that I would love to transition just to completely private pay, um,
Mhm.
private practice. Um, and I think I am grateful that I have the ability. I've saved up a little bit, so I have the ability to work part-time right now.
Mhm.
Um, but there is some pressure there. It's pressure
Yeah.
from myself, it's pressure from, my husband, and
Mhm.
he works in risk management, so, like, great, like, this is what he's like he's like, "When
Mhm.
are you getting the clients?" Very supportive, of course,
Right,
um,
right.
but there's some pressure there, um,
Mhm.
and I just wanna make sure, I think that, like, I'm doing everything that I should be doing, and
Yeah.
that if I do follow these networking or these marketing techniques, that, like, the clients will come.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think really thinking about like, where does someone with obsessional OCD go? Like they feel like people don't get them because people
Yeah,
don't get them. People tell them not to worry. They say things like calm down. Like
yeah. Mhm.
I think SEO could be helpful, but that's going to require blogging.
Okay.
Um, but what about video? Have you considered video?
Would video be something on my website that I would post?
What I'd probably recommend is it's hosted because you have to have it hosted somewhere in
Okay,
order to embed it into your website. So like putting it on YouTube.
okay,
And these don't have to be long. They could be anywhere from like maybe like 3 minutes to 12 minutes. And
okay.
it's okay if all of them are 3 minutes, you know.
Yeah,
1 minutes do well too. Like you could do some YouTube shorts, but I
okay.
don't want it to feel like now you've gotten yourself into basically an Instagram channel you didn't want to have,
Yeah.
you know.
Mhm.
But if every week you just put out some content between, I'd say like 1 and 12 minutes
Yeah,
that your ideal client would benefit from, that could
okay,
be, and then you also, you embed each of those videos on your website in the way that most people would do blogs.
okay.
Like you literally set up a blog page and put them in there.
Yeah,
Then I think that that could be really helpful for helping people get that you get it,
yeah.
and
Mhm.
helping people find you.
Okay. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely, something I probably wouldn't gravitate towards in
Mhm.
my, just I think that would be a risk for me. That would
Uh-huh.
be me putting myself out there and really exposing myself and showing people that, like, you know what? I do have knowledge. I am an expert here. Um,
Mhm.
so it's definitely, yeah, definitely something to think about.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you say it like that, I'm like, yeah, do it. At first, when you were like, that would be, I was like, okay, you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. But like, you've got this framework in your head already. That's how you work clinically of like, just because it's scary doesn't mean it's bad.
Yeah,
That there's opportunity in that and doing
yeah,
the fearful thing. Um, so I think that would probably help prove to yourself that you know a lot that many of us don't know, and certainly more than lay people know.
yeah. Mhm, mhm. Yeah, I know that would really be good for me.
Mhm. And expect to suck on video. I don't know if you've watched the video section of the marketing fundamentals course, but like everybody sucks at first. I sucked so bad. Like I tried to find the first videos. I've tried so hard, and I must have like destroyed them. Because they were awful. They were literally like, "Hi, I'm Allison, and I'm here to talk to you about your private practice." Like it was terrible.
No stick.
Yeah. So just like know that you'll be a little weird at first, and you don't have to post those. But if you do a little bit of video every single day and make yourself watch them, you'll desensitize to it, and you'll also get used to being in front of the camera, which makes you able to be yourself on camera.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Yeah. But there's a lot the world doesn't know about obsessional OCD. And there are so many myths about OCD to bust. Like there's just like so much content you could create that you'll never lack for something to say.
Mhm.
It's just trusting yourself to communicate it, which you can. You
Yeah,
do it every day.
I do. I do. Mhm. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Anything else that would be helpful in the next couple minutes?
Let's see. I don't think so. The only other thing I'm thinking of is just like resources for myself just to supplement any like books, articles, websites you would recommend for either clinically or just in terms of like the business side of things.
You got everything you need business wise. Like I wouldn't like you've got all that in the party. I don't want you
Mhm.
to like overdo it and get
Yeah.
overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Clinically, I interviewed somebody recently. Let me find it real quick. Not the right button. I interviewed somebody recently, so I have this other business I haven't really announced very much.
Oh,
And we're launching it, I believe, next week. There she is. It's called Not Boring CEs.
okay.
And so I've been
Oh,
doing all these really amazing CEs with people, and I've been learning so much. So I got to talk with Beth Brawley, Brawley, and she does training on ERP and specializes in OCD, and
okay.
she's so brilliant.
Yeah,
So I don't know if she does supervision or consultation, but it's totally worth reaching out to her to see what resources she may have.
that would be
Um, but I loved talking to her. I felt like I learned so much. So
cool. Yeah, definitely in the free time that I have, I want to be able to supplement and
yeah,
get trained in something, and ERP has always been something up my alley. So, okay,
yeah,
cool. Awesome.
very cool. Well, yeah, keep me updated in the party.
I
You've
will.
got this. You really do. Like, yeah, keep
Okay.
reminding yourself, you know what you're doing.
Okay. Okay. Amazing.
Awesome.
So much.
Absolutely. Take care.
I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.